The Cecil Soil Conservation District proudly presents Richland Farm as our 2015 Cooperator of the Year. Richland Farm, owned and operated by the Riesler families, is a beef and crop operation in Calvert, Maryland. Located on Lombard Road and bounded by Biggs Highway and Telegraph Road, the 125-acre farm includes approximately 57 acres of crop ground, 27 acres of pasture, and 37 acres of woodlands and wildlife habitat. Additionally, the Rieslers rent hay and crop ground on several other farms, operating on over 260 acres. The Rieslers are committed to implementing conservation practices to improve their land and create a legacy for future generations. Richland Farm has been in the Riesler family for more than 5 generations. In the mid-1800s, the farm passed from Philip Steele to his daughter Susanna and her husband, Evan Riesler. The next generation to own the farm was their son Charles and his wife Jenny, who were married in 1886 and spent their married life on the farm, running a dairy operation and taking an active role in the surrounding community. In 1936, they celebrated their golden anniversary at their farmhouse, surrounded by friends and family. Their son John and his wife Claretta became the next owners, continuing the dairy operation. John was actively involved in the agricultural community, serving on the Farm Bureau Board and the Forestry Board over the years. John and Claretta raised 5 children on the farm: Edith, Charles, Ralph, Ruth, and David. Charles and David began farming together on the home farm, as well as managing 4 other farms, while Ralph settled not far away on a farm on Calvert Road in Rising Sun. David and his wife Sharon moved into a house nearby on Brick Meeting House Road, and he eventually took a job with S.G. Lewis, a Massey Ferguson and New Holland equipment dealer. He continued to farm part-time, working with his brother Ralph at his farm. Later, David worked for the County Roads Department before leaving to return to full-time farming. David's son, David Jr., grew up helping on his uncle's farms. But his father told him that he should try something besides farming, so he got a degree in industrial electronics and took a job with W.L. Gore, where he continues to work full-time in facilities management. However, as his father says, farming gets into the blood, so in the 1990s, David Jr. brought a few beef animals over from his Uncle Ralph's to the home farm and began farming with his Uncle Charles. They gradually expanded the beef operation and phased out the dairy cows. After his brother Charles passed away, David Sr. returned to the home farm to help his son. In 2010, David Jr. met Kelly, who is a social studies teacher at Rising Sun Middle School, and they got married in 2011. Kelly, who grew up on a farm in Ohio, takes an active role at Richland Farm. David and Kelly have a daughter, JJ, who is 1 year old, and they are expecting a son this year. JJ is already part of farm life, accompanying her father and mother on chores around the farm and pointing out the farm's animals with enthusiasm. The farmhouse, where David, Kelly, and JJ live, is well over a century old, and the oldest section may be closer to 200 years old. David Sr., his father, and his grandfather were all born in this house. In more recent years, partly in response to a chimney fire that occurred in 1997, the Rieslers have completed extensive renovations on the farmhouse. Richland Farm is a thriving beef and crop operation. Currently, the Rieslers have about 50 beef cows and 70 feeders at the home farm, and about 20 more animals at Ralph's farm. Their animals are mostly Hereford Angus crosses. The Rieslers use straw and corn fodder for bedding. Their cropping is managed according to an 8-year rotation, which includes grain corn and silage corn, small grains double cropped with soybeans, and 5 years of alfalfa or grass hay. The Rieslers have shown a strong commitment to conservation, beginning their association with the Cecil Soil Conservation District in 1946, when John Riesler signed a conservation plan just 1 year after the district was formed. One of the earliest practices David Sr. remembers his father installing is a ditch in the early 1950s. In the following years, John installed contour strips and tile drains and developed wildlife habitat. David Jr. first began working with the district through the cover crop program. He saw pictures of a cattle feeding and waste storage facility in the Progressive Farmer magazine, asked the district about the practice, and in 2003 built one of Maryland's first cattle feeding and waste storage facilities under the USDA Agricultural Management Assistance Program. The structure is 60 feet long by 30 feet wide and includes waste storage, a feeding area with 2 troughs, a concrete heavy-use area protection with a grass filter strip, and a roof runoff structure. The next major project the Rieslers tackled was installing over 5,000 feet of fencing to exclude cattle from the adjacent stream and implement a rotational grazing system for the herd. An increase in herd size necessitated an additional waste storage structure, and despite unfavorable weather conditions, construction began early in 2008. The circular concrete waste storage structure was built along with a concrete barnyard with curbs to convey manure-laden water to the waste storage facility. A roof runoff structure was also constructed to direct clean water to a safe outlet below the concrete storage facility. Both father and son agree that this waste storage structure was the best practice they've installed because it maximized available space while creating a cleaner barnyard. During the manure tank installation, significant groundwater was discovered, and a spring development was built to transfer this groundwater to a rubber-tired trough, which serves as a livestock watering facility. David Jr. says the practice is one of the neatest they've installed. In 2010, the Rieslers constructed a stream crossing over a tributary of Little Northeast Creek to allow animal access to the northern pasture. Also in that year, the Rieslers were part of a pilot program to study the use of Bermuda grass, a warm-season grass, for use in pasture grazing systems. They also tested methods of planting Bermuda grass using spent mushroom substrate as a soil amendment. David Jr. enjoyed being part of the program and working with the grazing specialists. In 2012, David Sr. completed a 3.3-acre shallow water development and wildlife management area, doing all of the grading for the project himself, with a skid loader and lots of time. The area is utilized as habitat by waterfowl and other wildlife. The barn expansion created a need for an additional concrete heavy-use area, which was built in 2013, along with another manure push-off area to the existing manure tank. In 2015, the Rieslers constructed a roof manure stacking structure to store the additional bed pack manure from the most recent barn expansion. This practice optimizes the confinement of animals and manure storage during unsuitable grazing weather. Roof runoff was also installed on the stacking structure to convey clean water beyond the pasture. The Rieslers operate under a comprehensive nutrient management plan, which includes their waste collection, transfer, and storage. They also plant cover crops every fall after crops are harvested to minimize erosion from fields and utilize excess nutrients from the soil. Richland Farm was recently certified under the Farm Stewardship Certification and Assessment Program, which was established by the Maryland Association of Soil Conservation Districts to recognize good natural resource stewardship and encourage the use of agricultural best management practices. The Rieslers are also in the process of placing the farm in a land preservation program to ensure that future generations can continue to farm the land. The Cecil Soil Conservation District honors Richland Farm for their wise management of natural resources, their commitment to conservation, and their creation of a legacy for future generations on their family farm.